Viva los deplorables. Welcome to the latest edition of the World Report. I'm Scott Crowfoot. On today's report, after the election, what will President Obama do on his way out? 10-year Treasury yields hit 2% for the first time this year. How will ISIS react to the incoming President Trump? And illegals are bum-rushing the border in a hurry to get in. The biggest losers of the recent election are the pollsters and the media. Our history segment explores the history of the right person showing up at the right time, every time, to save America. And now to our top stories. Against all odds, collusion, corruption, being outspent twice as much. The American people rose up, spoke out in a historic uprising. Donald J. Trump actually pulled off the biggest political upset in possibly American history, certainly recent history. Joining us is the World Report senior analyst, Maury Beschloss, whom you can follow at mbeschloss on Twitter. Maury, the last time we spoke, which wasn't too long ago, the situation could not have been any different. How shocked are you by what just happened in the presidential election?
Well, shocking means I'm unhappy. I'm very happy it happened the way it did, but I'm absolutely astounded.
Well, I was shocked that the Cubs came back and won the World Series, too. And happy that they did that.
Yeah,
but
it's interesting. Two events like that happening back to back practically. 5 million people celebrated in Chicago that the curse of the goat was gone forever. And then suddenly you got the other surprise.
And now we have the curse of the camel on its way out.
Yeah. Well, obviously I'm delighted, unbelievably delighted, because I think the future of the Supreme Court now is in the hands of the right. That's number one. Huge. It's very
because that doesn't affect you for 4 years or 8 years. That affects you for 20, 30, 40. Yeah, or like Ruth Buzzy Ginsburg or some of these other ones have been there their entire lives almost.
It'll be there for your lifetime.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. That's to me was number one. But also, I like Trump because he, to me, is the ultimate leader type. There's something about him. He makes things happen. He spoke a little too much off the cuff, and he got himself settled down when Bannon came in and got him the teleprompter. But the point is, we need a personality that is up to a guy like Vladimir Putin or Sisi or Netanyahu. He now is in that crowd. Before, they were laughing at this guy Obama as being third rate, and other countries looked down on the United States as not being what they used to be. We were sliding right off the table while the other countries were doing whatever they wanted to do. When you think about the Iranians shooting at our ships, can you imagine that happening now?
Or the Russians buzzing our planes?
That's right. This is what it's all about. I'm his history buff of the worst sort, much more even than economics. And I see it's the leader that makes the country, not the other way around.
And it could have been the fact that another 4 years and our military may have been depleted to the point, we don't talk about winning wars anymore. We're worried about bringing in women into the military, into combat, and social engineering, and all this other nonsense that has nothing to do with the world at hand.
You made a very, very important point. I think, number one, leadership at the top and a strong military to back it up. As long as...
Ronnie said, strength through leadership.
Kraft durch Freude, as they say in Germany. And that, you have to sometimes scare the opposition to know that a guy like Trump now, if you start fooling around with him, you better think twice. Obama, I think most nations in the world considered him as somewhat of a joke, frankly.
We talked on our last show about the significance between 1980 with Reagan and Carter to this year.
That's right.
And it couldn't have turned out more so than we even imagined.
Yeah, I know it. And somehow it was more of a hopefulness on my part to bring that up and expand on it. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the 30% downtime of Reagan against Carter turned into a victory for Reagan? Of course, at that time, like we had Obamacare to help us. he had the giveaway of the Panama Canal at the time. People might have forgotten about that.
And the inflation and the malaise and
the malaise, and when Carter said the answer to America's problems is downsizing. We're too big for our britches. Let's just be a small little country and let everybody else do what they want to do.
So when you look at the map now, who would have thought that Pennsylvania would have gone Republican? Wisconsin went Republican. There's some states out there that they didn't even go into because they didn't think they had a chance.
No, I don't think it had to do with it. Had to do with the type of people. You know, most of the working people,
And 1/3 of the country is not working right now.
Right, but the point is, you had. Why do you think West Virginia has turned into a Republican state? Because Hillary said,
And Obama attacked the coal miners.
Well, I mean, they took away their jobs, and Pennsylvania has coal mines, and Ohio has coal mines, and you have. And they felt, if anything, if Hillary came, if I was one of those workers who they said, well, you know, those guys are going to vote for us, meaning Hillary, she's going to take our jobs away. Even our part-time jobs are going to be gone.
Even more so than it's already been decimated.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people I heard that say, whisper the fact we're going to vote for Trump, but they didn't say it out loud. And the polls were either doctored in many cases or just totally
oversampled Democrats. There's a lot of ways that they pull these off.
Yeah, the whole. I've never seen such a poisonous media.
And assault, a full-blown assault.
This is the most poisonous media since the Nazi newspapers of the 1930s. Even Pravda and Izvestia sounds a little more truthful than the American media. The New York Times, what they call it, the New York Crimes, that's a much better term. And by the way, they lost more money in the last quarter than they ever did in their history.
And I'm sure they're scratching their heads not figuring out what happened. No one would listen to what was going on. Trump was getting 30,000 people at his rallies. You couldn't even get 300 to a Hillary Clinton rally without busting them in. No one listened to America, and we are the only ones that don't have a lobby in this country. Every other splinter group has a lobbyist for them, except for the American person.
You know what is so stupid about the media? First of all, they're losing a lot of advertising money to digital. I mean, this is, you know, you see Time Magazine today, it looks like a thin piece of paper compared to the thick magazine they used to have. But they're hastening their demise by now putting themselves in a position of challenging one of the candidates. There would have been a subtle way of doing that. Instead, our local newspaper here, the Desert Sun, for the first time ever came out on a presidential race, ever. Had no business doing that. They could have worked around it, looking like fools today. USA Today, as an organization, came out viciously against Trump. I mean, it wasn't only that we favor Hillary.
The Washington Post hired 25 full-time people to investigate every crumb and every crack and crevice in Donald Trump's entire life.
But that doesn't come out in the open the way a statement on the editorial page does. And those people are going to regret this.
You're Donald Trump. What are the first 3 things you do as president?
Well, the first thing I do as president is close the borders to anybody from the Middle East. I mean, don't make any excuses. Well, you know, only the ones that are from a certain part. No, we're not going to have anybody coming in right now because there's no way to clear them. They look at Germany. I mean, Germany is falling apart from the inside.
There's some places in Germany that the police can't even go right now.
Exactly. So the number one thing I would do is close the borders now. And if you don't like it, go someplace else. That's number one. Number 2, I would absolutely follow up on my statement about Obamacare, because this is coming to the end of the year now. You don't have much time to do something and say, listen, we can't live with this thing. We can't live with Arizona having a 116% increase on their premiums.
So let's talk about Obamacare for a second before we close this segment out.
Yeah.
To me, one of the most important things would be to open up the exchanges nationwide. There's no reason why you need one insurance company in one state and two in another state. Open them up. Everybody can go on the internet and shop.
You're absolutely right. That's an easy one. But
that forces competition. When you got competition, you get better rates and better prices.
And ask the question, was there a deal made so that they would stay within states? You're absolutely right. You see, the big question now is, will Trump take advantage of the power that he has? Or is he going to pussyfoot in, or is he going to go in there with his boots on? And
I don't think it's his nature. I really don't.
I know it's not his nature, but I mean, you asked me what you think he should do. I would say that's a very, very important point. The Obamacare thing is very, very, very important. Another thing, I would totally ignore Hillary and the chicanery that she's been involved with. Forget about it. Let somebody else worry about it. I think everything he should do should be positive.
We got to hold him accountable and make sure he doesn't weasel away on us. We need to step away for a brief moment, but we'll be back faster than a Paul Ryan flip-flop. Remember, if you'd like to see the show again or just catch a segment, it's simple, it's free. Just go to YouTube and search Morris Beschloss. We will be right back.